Call the special meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Mr. Farrar.
Mr. Chairman. Mark Finkel.
Here.
Albert Hayes.
Here.
Jeffrey Rosenthal.
Here.
Ken DeWitt.
Here.
John Callahan.
Here.
Rob Leslie.
Here.
Oltan, I guess excused. Yes. Hudson. Stephanie. Zicki. Rick Ferrara. Here, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Public comment? You wanted to speak? Or I thought you said you did.
Oh, I do want to speak.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
Motion to adopt the meeting.
Oh, I missed that. My fault. I need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda. We don't have to revise it.
Mr. Rosenthal participating via video conference.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. DeWitt.
I'll second that.
Mr. Hayes.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Now, Joe, I'm sorry.
Okay. You all know me, Joe Sullivan. I
Yes.
represent the SPC. And although I was not aware of the agenda, from conversation, I understand that you're considering getting some help with the public outreach and advocacy of the role of Hudson River. And speaking for the SPC and myself personally, I think it's a great idea. Myself, and my other board members on the SPC constantly hear from people. We hear false rumors about what your mission is in around the water level, the motives behind the water level, and anything you can do to continue correcting the misconceptions and putting an image out that this is no longer an us versus them situation.
Yeah.
And I would support and help you do that. And I would also offer my personal help or my group's help if you thought that an outside agency could help you craft your message. We would be more than willing to sit down and speak with the group.
And I'm writing this, by the way, this proposal is for the Black River area only. Is that correct?
It is not. It is for Black River and Hudson River.
Oh, it's for both.
It's
I'm
for
sorry.
the organization.
Okay. I just kept hearing about the hunt. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity.
So all right. You're okay. Approval of the June 11th, 19 Finance and Regular Board Meeting Minutes.
I'll make that motion. I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now to the business of the meeting. Resolution authorizing an agreement with Baker Public Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As discussed at our last regular board meeting, I've engaged this firm in conversations about entering into a consulting arrangement whereby they will essentially provide us a foundation, a temporary contract over the next 6 months to sort of combat some of the issues that Mr. Sullivan just articulated, and also help take advantage of certain inherent milestones. For instance, this year with the Black River Regulating District, to use that as a springboard to get effective, accurate information out there. One of the things that, again, relating to Mr. Sullivan's presence here today, he showed me just before the meeting a Facebook post that we're artificially, the new president, as it says, artificially keeping the lake level high to promote boating. Obviously, we're following an agreement that's been established for the better part of 2 decades here. There are very wet years, as we have this year, there are very dry years, but certainly most people think about the regulating district and its mission when they are upset at the regulating district for some reason. Either they've just paid their bill, or they can't use their beach, or they just broke a lower unit. So I think getting out ahead of some of these issues in a strategic way is something that the board seemed very receptive to at our last meeting. I had not gotten far enough along in terms of developing, working with this consultant, which is a MWBE, so a certified woman-owned business, which will help us with our goals in that category as well, in order to give the board enough time to consider this at its last meeting. Several board members, Mr. Rosenthal in particular, indicated they'd be open to a special meeting, especially given the milestone that we have coming up in the Black River Regulating District, to take advantage of the 100th anniversary of the Black River Regulating District's creation. And obviously, we're in the middle of the summer boating months. We've recently lost our employee that was a sole employee that manages both our newsletter and our Facebook page. We've doubled our Facebook followership over the last 2.5 months or so, but still we are, not producing new content, specialized content relative to our mission and our message, and that is today, frankly, a medium that most people are using to get their news, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. So we're trying to do a better job of that as well. So this is an opportunity. It's in terms of the dollar value, it's a relatively small amount. It's a short term in terms of the length of time. My hope is that it can provide us a foundation that we can build on with staff later in my tenure, relative to having a Facebook channel that's pushing out original content, which is accurate, Instagram, earned media, and the newsletter that you, Mr. DeWitt, and others have been so complimentary about. I hate to lose those efforts, those efforts that were so well begun by Aaron Dwyer, and I hope to really just early on my tenure get a little more sophisticated in the way we communicate with not only the public and our stakeholders, but the people, frankly, that make the decisions in Albany. So I know there are questions on this contract and this proposal, and I look forward to trying to address any that any of the board members
Very good, and just for the record, it's 36,000?
36, an amount not to exceed $36,400. Yes.
How do we,
John, does that include their, I noticed in the proposal, there seems to be an additional fee, it's not in front of me anymore.
Yep. Mr. Ro-
at $150 an hour?
For deliverables or something like that?
So, Mr. Rosenthal, that was part of the conversation, ongoing conversation with the consultant to get them to revise that proposal. It is clear to them that the 36.4 is a not to exceed number. The board would authorize, if it adopts this resolution, 36.4 and no more. So billing for additional items to the extent they are not included in this contract would be folded in to that not to exceed number, or we would just not do it. For instance, if we had them take advertising out of the proposal, I don't anticipate doing advertising, quote unquote, in the traditional sense. If we did, we would go procure that on our own. So that is a true not to exceed number, the 36.4.
Yeah, I just was wondering how
No,
we
go ahead.
budget that $150 an hour. But I mean, we may want to do that.
We could, and but let me suggest that not having entered into this sort of professional relationship in the past, Mr. DeWitt, I'm sensitive to, with our stakeholders in the room, needing to do this, even though we're going outside to procure these services, needing to do it in a frugal way, giving the board fiscal certainty as far as the number will go up to this amount and not surpass it. So I've had that conversation with the consultant, and I think these services are important, but I also think it would be difficult to ask the board to enter into this relationship with an unknown, that there might be uncertainty in terms of the total fiscal impact. So just to clarify, the total fiscal impact will not exceed, relative to the board's authorization, $36,400.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions?
I think that's what I was gonna ask too. I seen they had the hourly rate of $100
Yes.
for graphic design, $150.
Yes. In the proposal, the most recent proposal that I circulated via email should have reflected a number of things that were in the earlier proposal coming out in terms of the advertising and that additional graphic design work. To the extent that additional graphic design work is still reflected in this proposal, I just want to clarify the conversation I've had with the consultant, and that the board's authorization in terms of the crafting of the resolution itself would not exceed expenses with this consultant beyond the 36.4.
A little bit, what do we know about the firm itself?
So the firm is a firm, Mr. Chairman, that I encountered when I was working at the Canal Corp, and we were promoting the actual bicentennial of the Erie Canal. I was on a program that is hosted by WNYT very early on Sunday mornings, although they don't tape very early on Sunday mornings. And I think it may be Forum 13, and if I've gotten that name wrong, forgive me. But the other panelist that was on was represented by Baker Public Relations. I was very impressed with Megan Baker, the principal, how she handled that event, how she worked with her clients, and I engaged her in conversation at that time. Of course, many people may know her and some of her colleagues with this firm from their time at local media outlets, Spectrum News, most prominent. So she's been in this business for about a decade. As you can see by the proposal, she represents a number of clients, a lot of associations, a lot of not-for-profits. As Mr. Rosenthal pointed out to me, not a lot of state agency or state authority work, although she has worked with a couple of SUNY institutions, so they are familiar with sort of the state procurement rules, but primarily
And the horse breeding.
in the Horse Breeders Association. Thank you for that, Counselor. But primarily public associations, not-for-profits, other private entities, but very, very effective in promoting through earned media with events and on social media, developing original content, newsletters, which is something, again, right now, we do need the support on. Having lost Aaron Dwyer, that was a big loss for us in terms of our in-house communications team. I think we can build that in-house bandwidth back, but we don't have it today, and we don't have it at a fairly critical time in terms of our messaging. I do know that Mr. Rosenthal had a question, and we didn't pick up on that.
Jeff?
One of my, John, Mr. Director, I think this is a great idea theoretically. My concern when I see the background that this company has and try to identify the myriad of interests that we have to, the municipalities, boaters or recreational, including snowmobiling, the political aspect. Are there more constituents that I'm not even thinking of?
No, I think there are, Mr. Rosenthal, and I think one of the biggest constituents we have, frankly, as we embark on a fairly ambitious and necessary infrastructure rehabilitation program over the next decade or so, and as we try and reinforce the important work we do very quietly, and that's part of the inherent challenge here for the people, especially downstream of these reservoirs, not just this reservoir. Are those other audiences, particularly in Albany, particularly with policymakers, not just in the executive chamber and in the legislature, but our sister state agencies. Again,
well, with that broad consideration, one of my concerns is the timetable within which we'll have whatever the deliverables are. And with that is how will each of those constituencies be targeted, prioritized?
Yeah, and I think it's important to distinguish, if I can, between a targeted campaign to gain support with a particular agency or constituency or legislative representative to a more broad media and communications strategy, which would just simply raise our profile, not as an organization, but as a mission, what we do in the minds of people across that spectrum. So, in other words, what you see a lot with this particular firm, with whether it's the Horse Breeders Association or other professional associations, where, like us, they have targets that include their constituents. They have targets that include their members. They have legislative targets. They want to increase their brand identity and their, frankly, popularity and likability in the public eye. Those organizations face some of the same challenges we do because we are dealing with stakeholders that are so diverse and across such a wide spectrum. And I think when you have an effective earned media and print strategy, in other words, not just the printed newsletter, but our social media channels, then we can reach a wide variety of people with essentially the same content. Sorry.
Mr. Ferraro, let me ask you this. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I don't have the figure. I know you do. What are the respective annual budgets for each side? Ballparks.
For this year?
Yeah.
There's so much capital in the Black River side. I think the Black River is probably $1 million and change.
And us like 3 million and change?
No, much more.
Higher than that.
Okay. What's us?
I think the whole 3 years, the 3 years is 20-something million divided by 3. You're talking about 7 million and change, so.
Just trying to get an idea of the
20%.
percentage of which.
I've always
You know,
thought
that's
of it as five on the Hudson, 2 on the Black.
5 and 2. All right, so 7 million. It's a relatively small percentage is one of the things I'm looking at.
In terms of the cost of the, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like less than 0.5% or maybe about 0.5%.
Mm-hmm.
Less than half, much less than 0.5%.
Because what I did is as I
That's
discussed.
okay. I just wanted to get some to get a relative sense here.
Yep. No, and I think one of the things, in talking with this firm about a potential relationship, Mr. Rosenthal, I did not want to suggest a longer term arrangement or frankly a larger number. We just wanted to, again, my hope
Well, I
is-
understand it.
Yep.
On the plus, that gives us an opportunity to see how well
Yes, sir.
they do. But I don't know. It's a pretty short porch within which they have to perform. By the same token.
It is, but if you look at you talked about the deliverables, Mr. Rosenthal, right out of the bat, it is going to be immediate social media content. It will be immediate newsletter content. It will be the execution of just a small event and an open house in the Black River Regulating District and the Black River area, in August. So right out of the gate, they will be called upon to perform, and so we'll have a sort of an immediate. And I'm looking across the table again at our partners with the Sacandaga Protection Committee, who are looking at and getting Facebook posts every day and sort of have a real-time poll really on favorability, unfavorability as far as how we're doing out there with our messaging. So I take your point, Mr. Rosenthal. We'll have to see something fairly quickly, but again, it's not so much to cement a longer-term relationship, but rather to provide a foundation for us in terms of our messaging and communication that we can build upon internally. That's my hope.
Yeah, and I think it's a new approach, and I think it's something you try.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's you know what? That's why I'm asking all these questions,
Yeah.
because this is not something we've ventured into. There is some importance to it, and I just want to make sure that while we're scratching our heads, we're going to get the best bang for the buck. That's really
Well, we'll know in a few months.
thrust of my.
We'll know in a few months.
We appreciate the dialogue.
Hey, Jeff?
Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied. I understand the purpose, the point, and where we are. So
Okay.
it is what it is. I'm okay.
That being the case, I'd like a motion that we authorizing the agreement with Baker Public Relations for a contract not to exceed $36,000.
I'll make,
400.
Did I miss?
I'll make that
I
motion.
can't read.
I'll make
Is there a
the
second to that motion?
I'll make,
I'll second that.
Do we have any
I'll make
further
that-
I'm sorry. I
I'll,
didn't mean,
I'll make that motion with the hope, in fact, that Baker Public Relations will reach out to the organizations like SPC, GSLA, as well as work collaboratively with everybody that is involved to identify our constituency and do a good job for us. So I'm not adding that as an amendment, that's a commentary.
okay.
Thank you.
See, I knew you'd end up voting aye.
We haven't voted yet.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
I know. I'm just busting them. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you all very much.
Can I
Any-
just mention, Jeff, real quick.
I'm
The
here.
Black River budget currently this year is 2.6 million, but
Yep.
$1.4 million of that is engineering and construction. So there's your $1 million, $1 or $2 million as their
Yeah.
total budget. Hudson River,
I just wanted to get a sense, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a
It's-
small
right.
amount of money.
right, and
that
it's
we're
coming
gonna-
out, and what I was gonna mention is that I had discussed this with the director, and this is gonna be earmarked out of the surplus, the general surplus, so,
Good. Satisfied there, Jeff?
well, for both.
No,
We'll,
yeah, fine.
Okay.
I was just trying to get my
it's just the
arms
number,
around it.
it's 6 million.
Yeah, I understand. No, that wasn't a negative. I was just asking you.
So it's just under 5.
Any other board member questions or comments? Motion to adjourn till next week?
Make that motion.
I'll second that.
Second,
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.